Well, we're joined now by Caroline Cox, a crossbench peer, who tomorrow introduces a bill designed to limit the influence of sharia law in legal cases, and by the solicitor Anna Khan. Welcome to both of you. Caroline Cox, first of all, there's obviously a government review underway, so why do we need your bill?
Because many Muslim women are in touch with me because they are suffering horrendously under the present provisions. Sharia law at the moment allows a man to divorce a wife by just saying, I divorced you 3 times. Polygamy is operational, and women are married into polygamous marriages. Now, knowing they're polygamous marriages, as we just heard, domestic violence is condoned because chastisement is allowed. So women are suffering. That's the urgency of the bill. But also it is a threat to that fundamental principle of one law for all in the 800th anniversary of Magna Carta.
Right. I mean, is Baroness Cox right to be alarmed?
She is correct to be alarmed. I'm a specialist in Islamic family law, and I face calls like this every day from the women. So I completely agree with you that there's cause for concern, but the way that she's gone about it perhaps may not be agreed upon.
Why?
Because having legislation which I feel is not, forgive me, well drafted, it's a mishmash rather than a clear-cut guidance. It seems to be trying to put the previous legislation right rather than alert us to the issues in a very clear way.
Right. I don't quite understand why you're confused or you think it's a mishmash. I mean, how many Muslim women in the UK, for example, are getting married under Islamic rather than British law?
My own anecdotal evidence is about 80% of marriages of the under-30s are not being registered under civil law. So I've launched my own campaign about that because I'm so deeply concerned.
Right, but is that not being addressed by your bill?
What is being addressed by the bill is to enable women to know their rights. There was a very good report by my Muslim women friends in the West Midlands which showed that so many Muslim women just do not know they're being married into an Islamic marriage, which doesn't give them civil rights. They don't know their rights and they yearn to know. So one of the things my bill would do would be to make sure there's an obligation on statutory authorities to make sure women know their rights. That's their cri de coeur from those women.
Right, well, you would support that?
Completely, and I would go so far as to say it should be part of the national curriculum for 15 to 17-year-old boys and girls to know that they're not having any legal marital rights if they just live together. Because it's not just a Muslim issue. People seem to think they can just live together and acquire rights.
Do you agree, though, that Sharia law, in principle, is a quasi-legal system which is fundamentally discriminatory against women?
No, I do not agree with that, because I use English law as an English lawyer to implement Sharia law solutions. Sometimes it's the only recourse a woman has when the English law judge cannot help her. An example would be the women who are not legally married. The English law judge cannot help them, and the Islamic law will give her a financial settlement, which the husband has to pay on divorce.
Would that be discriminatory, that financial settlement?
Well, how would it be discriminatory if it's the only thing that the woman has to set her up after a divorce? She needs the money from her husband as a contract, a written contract which she signed with him. Why can't we get that for her?
The fundamental principles of Sharia law are inherently discriminatory. Inherently, a woman obtains half that of a man in a legacy. A woman's voice only counts for half that of a man in a court. And the whole Sharia principles are inherently gender discriminatory in a way that make our suffragettes turn in their graves when they see them operating in Britain today.
I mean, under Sharia law, a husband need only say, I divorce you 3 times to secure a divorce, whereas a wife must meet other conditions and pay a fee. So that it is discriminatory.
It's a woman's duty to know the law, so if she wants to, she should know that Islamic marriage contracts can have any clause that she wants. So she should have the right of divorce put in that, and then she can give the divorce. If we go back to what used to happen 1400 years ago, which is now being done exactly the same way by Muslim men now, then we're giving away all our rights to them by not knowing our own rights as women. So what I would say to Muslim feminists is that we should educate Muslim women in 21st century Britain to ask for their Sharia law rights.
What justification is there for a Sharia law to exist at all in terms of overriding the law of this land?
If English law could meet all these needs, I'd be delighted to say there's
isn't
no
that
need.
what Baroness Cox is trying to do, that?
It won't meet the needs of the woman who's just living with a husband, having been duped into a marriage which she thinks is legal, and she has no legal rights to divorce or a financial settlement. How would you help her? If you do away with sharia councils, how will you help her?
Let Caroline Cox answer, and then I'll come to you, Nigel.
Well, first and foremost, the bill does respect religious freedom. If a devout Muslim accepts this discrimination in all kinds of ways, then she's entitled to do so. There's no coercion for devout Muslims or those of other faiths. It doesn't specify a faith tradition. But we have thousands of Muslim women who are deeply unhappy, who are suffering at the moment from these appalling discriminations. One woman was given her divorce by the post. It came on a piece of paper to say, I divorce you. Their mum said you were divorced. She's left with no rights. She's left with no provisions. So it is not a good situation for countless Muslim women in the country today.
You would support Caroline Cox's
I'm a huge Caroline Cox supporter. I think she's been very brave. I think she's standing up and fighting for women's rights, and she's fighting for British values, and she's fighting for the idea that all of us that live in this country, regardless where we come from, regardless what our religions are, have to live under one legal system. And everything I hear is as if there is quite a large parallel society developing in this country, and that's really bad news.
How would you stop it? How would you end this sort of parallel legal system? It exists not just, of course, in the Muslim community. It also exists. There are Jewish courts for ultra-Orthodox that exist, also on these sorts of civil disputes.
But of course, it is a case ultimately of which court, has supremacy and which court is respected. And in the case of the Jewish courts, that's a method that is used to sort out disputes. But I mean, if 80% of marriages that are going on within the Muslim
it's a very large number.
are not conforming in any way with British civil law
and growing,
then there's something that needs to be done here in a very, very
big way. So we all agree that we need to stop this.
One of the problems, of course, is, and I know you've campaigned on this, that the British authorities over the years have very often turned a blind eye.
Yes.
They've turned, for example, immigration coming into Britain from Pakistan, where people are coming in to take part in polygamous marriages, and yet there's been knowledge of this in the Foreign Office, in the police force, and nothing's been done for fear of being seen to be racist. And we need, actually, to be a bit more muscular in defending our values.
Quick 30-second points. One, visa brides. Women are being sent abroad forcibly to marry, to bring a husband back with a visa so he can live in this country. He will then divorce her. And secondly, polygamy. Men in these communities, my Muslim women friends tell me, many of them are having up to 20 children each with polygamous arrangements. We don't allow bigamy. This is right against the law and the spirit of our country, but also demography is going to affect democracy.
All right.
So we all agree that we have to take firm action.
Ladies, thank you.